Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's get back to the conversation on national security. You perhaps know vigilantes in your area. Perhaps if you are living in any of the estates around the country, you perhaps also have your own estate police. Well, if you're not getting what I'm trying to paint for you tonight, you perhaps have seen other uniformed persons aside those in black who are police officers. Well, the concept of community policing seems that is the way to go in Nigeria. The Inspector General of Police told the National Assembly today that they are considering that to tackle the insecurity challenge in the country. Let's get talking, everyone, on this one. And I have joining me the House of Reps chairman on the Army, Honorable Abdulrazak Namdas from our Abuja studio, and also the national chairman of the National Conscience Party, Alhaji Tanko Yunusa. From London is a police and national security expert and a lawyer, Dr. Charles Omole. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming tonight. Let me begin with you, Honorable Namdas. The service chiefs, interestingly, it was on the floor of the House that you and your colleagues were asking for their sack. So when you met them today, did you raise up that issue? Did you discuss whether or not they should be removed?
Thank you so much, Shewon. Actually, the main focus of our discussion with the service chiefs stems from the resolution of the House that said that we should be able to have in-depth discussions with them, and then we report back to the leadership and the House. And we have had a lot of discussions with them. Our resolution still stands. We are not reversing our resolution. And they know that the resolution stands, but it is left for the executive, in any case, I mean the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who has the powers to appoint and also to relieve them of the appointments. For us, we have commonly told them that the problems in Nigeria and from our constituencies are so enormous that we can't keep quiet, and therefore we needed to know what were their challenges, and they told us the challenges they are facing. So meanwhile, we will leave the president to take the decision for sacking them or for them to leave, to resign. But whether they leave or not, the issues on ground is that whether new people come, how can we handle security issues? Whether you have a new person on board today, you will still need to know how do we stem the tide of kidnapping, terrorism, armed banditry, and pipeline vandalization, cattle rustling. So what are the checks put in place? So this was what we had a very robust discussion, and we were told of the challenges, and we will see how we can be able to resolve those challenges.
But Honorable, before I allow the other panelists on the program to coming into the conversation, is it fair to ask for the service chiefs to go, knowing that the role of the military is external aggression, is a business of the police to maintain order in a civil environment? Is it fair on them to ask them to be sacked?
No, I think that is something we need to clarify. First, I know that the Armed Forces Act, Cap A20, states clearly that both the armed forces are to defend the territorial integrity of Nigeria, either from the air, sea, or also on the land. But again, because the nature of war in the whole world today has changed from nation to nation to internal issues. So the ISOs, or internal security matters, are the ones that are invoked all over the world. And Section 217 of the Constitution specifically allows the president to invite the armed forces to come and take care of the internal crisis. However, when they finish, they're supposed to allow the police to also consolidate on the gains that have been received. But I think the issue of sacking is that whoever is employed has a particular rule to also guide those things. I think the discussion in the National Assembly was that the service chiefs were appointed to serve for 2 years. Their tenure was extended for 2 years. That was the position. And therefore, the House advised. But as I said, the president also keep getting security reports from these service chiefs. He has the right to keep them. He has the right to sack them. But the truth is that All over the world, internal security crises are also handled by the armed forces. I know for that as a sure, but it's also supposed to be a permanent issue because they need to also take care of the crisis and then get away and allow the police to consolidate. So it's a challenge on the armed forces to do more or the police and to do more. Of course, it is not their basic right duties to do, but within the Constitution, they can be called upon to also take care of the internal crisis.
Alaji Yunus Atanko, weigh in, if you may, please, on this one. We heard the opposition leader in the National Assembly in the Senate asking for the resignation of the president, this government, because according to him, he does not believe that the president or the government of the day can handle the security or have the capacity to fix the security problem in the country. Now we have been faced with all of these issues. What are your thoughts as a leader of an opposition party?
Well, frankly speaking, when I had the statement apportioned to Senator Abaribe, it just rejiggled my mind as to regard to the statement being apportioned also to the present president, which was accusing the former president, of course, of saying that he cannot handle the issue of security and therefore he's supposed to resign. So I guess they are now using that his words against him in the same situation. The truth about it is that we have a very serious challenge as regards to issue of security. And what pains me mostly, for me, is about using Nigerians as a pawn game, because sometimes some of these issues are being politicized and then politics is being played in such a way that the lives of Nigerians doesn't matter anymore. If you recall, in 2015, what really brought the former government down was the issue of insecurity. And then we must confess and congratulate the present government at that particular period of time that the nature of the kind of security gadget and the kind of barricade that we see in Nigeria at that time has fizzled out. But unfortunately, the resurgence of this particular issue of security now has gone more worse because it goes into the houses of every individual. I can tell you the fact that just about a week ago, I lost one young boy who was living with us and is a security man and left my house for another place. But before you knew it, that boy was killed. It was unbelievable. Hamza was killed. That is his name. So these are happening, and then people come to your home and abduct you just like chickens. And then if you look at this and it continues unabated, all it leads to is it leads to collapse. And I must say here also, it is because the center has failed that gives room for every section of this country now requesting for internal policing. Let's look at the statistics available. According to Wikipedia, we have 371,800 police. And some of these police are assigned to either some of the political office holders, some of them members of the reps, senators, governors, and all. So you find out that majority of them, about 1/3 of them probably are not actually doing what they're supposed to do. According to the United Nations Population Security Index, what it says is that you need 400, or you need one policeman to man 450. And as this situation today, we think that probably it is even too, it's not even visible. We needed more police to man at least even the 200 to 300 citizens. That would have been much better. But now, because the center has failed, now it has given room for every section of this country or even zones of this country to come out with their own outfit. We are seeing the issue of the Hizbah, the Amotekun, and then the latest one is Shege Kapasa and the rest of them. So, and in a way, it is dividing the country into pieces and then leaving the governance to like saying that we cannot handle the issue of security anymore. But I am happy that the community policing issue is coming on board because all of these outfits that we have already now having can now fuse into that particular issue of community policing. It is the best way to go because you will have those the people who know the terrain very well and knows the areas in which they can give information and probably do apprehension as quickly as possible even before the police get to that particular position. And you can imagine the resources being disposed by some of the zones.
All right.
In the Amotekun case, You are having about 100 motorbikes being donated by each state, and then you have 20 hillocks. So imagine each of these zones can donate this kind of heavy resources, which has been the problem of the Nigerian police for a very long time. Is it not appalling for every one of us? Many of our leaders have been traveling outside this country. Have they seen where their police been collecting bribe on the street? But here we celebrate it. We see policemen because they have already exemplarily told us what their challenges are, and then you see a policeman collecting 10 naira, 20 naira on the street. And now even that is even affecting the army. It's unbelievable. And then you expect the same
Alaji
people, because
Tanko,
they are going through strenuous ways. Yes.
let's bring in Dr. Omole. He's an expert in issues of policing and security. He's also a lawyer. He's talking to us from London. Dr. Omole, give us a sense of what you think the problem is. Perhaps a lot of people will say this is not a far cry from what we've seen, historically speaking, of course, in some other parts of the world. But when this happened in other climes, how did they tackle it? Are we in a most severe situation security-wise?
Thank you very much, Sheon. The problem with community policing in Nigeria is that it's been a statement has been said by several high GPs for the past 8 years or 8 to 10 years, and they've been paying lip service to it. The fundamental problem is community policing can be practiced in 40 countries in 40 different ways. So there's no one size fits all of community policing. It's more of a policing paradigm. The challenge we have in Nigeria is the fact that the backbone of community policing is effective system for gathering intelligence. That we don't have in Nigeria. Currently, if you go and report a crime in, say, Ikeja in Lagos to the police station, and then you go to VI, there's no way of finding out automatically whether you reported a crime in Ikeja, even though it's the same state. Everything's recorded in pen and paper, and the whole idea of community policing is it throws up all manner of information. But the information doesn't become intelligence until it is processed and analyzed. That is the weak point of Nigerian police at the moment. The intelligence operation is weak because it has not been resourced. And I believe the current IGP is the best we've had for a long time. And I think if given the appropriate resources, he can turn things around. The key elements, I say, for Nigeria, there are 5 key pillars, I think, for community policing. Number one, or strategies. Number one is that it is a preventive and proactive policing method. Our policing in Nigeria has largely been reactive. Police will show up after the crime has been committed. When last did we hear that the police infiltrated a gang of robbers and arrested them before the robbery was committed? We don't hear such news in Nigeria. That is one of the elements of community policing. Number two, community policing allows the police to build a early warning system, which allows the police to, pick up trends in different areas of the country and able to respond much more readily. And number three, the third element, which is actually the key element of community policing all over the world, is the psychopathology of crime is such that, for example, nobody commits armed robbery as their first crime, for example. It doesn't happen that way. An armed robber that you catch will have committed several low-level crimes. So what community policing allows the police to do is to pick up those low-level crimes, and deal with them at those low level. For example, in New York City, when Giuliani was a mayor, he introduced a zero-tolerance approach to policing, which was a form of community policing, which meant those crimes that people were not being arrested for before, like graffiti in the wall, all those little crimes, everybody was arrested for it. In 5 years, crime in New York went down by 70%. You see, because a lot of the people that grow up to become the big criminals start small. So community policing allows those early criminals, so to speak, to be caught in the system.
All right,
Number
Dr.
four,
Omale,
community
you've
policing.
mentioned three.
Yes.
I wouldn't want you to lose that line of thought. You will give us the rest too, but let me quickly ask you: the Amotekun experiment, the Southeast, they've also muted the idea of a regional policing outfit, security outfit. Would you say that those concepts, the Hisba that we're hearing another one from Kaduna State today, are those viable shortcuts in achieving some of what you have described tonight?
Yes and no. And I'm not evading your question. That's the reason why I said that. The Amotekun and all the various regional security apparatus being set up, if not done properly, will replicate at the state level the problem we have at the national level. You know, part of the biggest problem we have in security generally in Nigeria today is the many silos of information, silos of security apparatus. And they don't cooperate the way they should, they rather compete with each other. And there is no joined up system that allows the police to access or harvest information from all the various silos of security or agencies. So as a result, everybody's just building their own empire. So we have a situation therefore where let's use a Motekun example. They catch somebody, or they notice something. They inform the police. Does the police have a system of recording that information? Does the police have a system of analyzing that information? If a further information is given to the police 2 weeks down the line, is there a way the police can join the dots between those two information to make it intelligence? Those things already don't exist because the resources are not there. So the way the legal structure in Nigeria is that policing is a federal exclusive activity. So the Amotekun and all the regional elements cannot really be law enforcement in the true sense of it, but they can serve as early warning system to gather intelligence, be the sight and sound of the people and feed this to the police. But the problem will still be there. What will the police do with the information they've received? And that, for me, is a fundamental problem.
Indeed, because I understand now that in some part of the United States, there is implementation of body cameras when police are being accused of randomly or killing or harming people that are in their way, and so you will see a level of improvement on what they have. We go for a break now, Dr. Omale, but give us a sense that is there a need for a national dialogue on the issue of security, or each state should get together and fix what their problem is?
Definitely there's a need for a national dialogue. You mentioned the United States. For example, the United States have, as at last count, they have just over 18,000 police departments in the United States. So it's a very fragmented community. Each university have their own police, each estates have their own police and all that. But one thing is clear. After the 9/11, a system was brought in of homeland security, whereby every single police unit in the United States feed their information to a central database. So the Homeland Security Department can, through a computer, know that you've committed a crime in Kansas, even though they might be in Washington. So that's what we don't have. That joined up operation is what we don't have in Nigeria. And therefore, duplicating more silos in the states will not solve the problem if we don't deal with the bigger issue.
Let's take a breather and perhaps get all of this in. Don't forget, Dr. Omale, you said 5 of those pillars. You give us the 2, but I will get back to my Abuja studio guest so that we can also get a sense of what you've said and how we need to move forward. Solution is what we're looking at when we come back from this break, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. And let's get back to the conversation on national security and the efforts of the Nigerian government in making sure that Nigerians are safe. My guest tonight, Dr. Charles Omole in London, and from our Abuja studio is Alhaji Yunus Tanko, the national chairman of the National Conscience Party. Also, he was the presidential candidate of that party in the 2019 election. Honorable Abdulrazak Namdaz is the chairman of the House Committee on the Army. All of them talking about security and the way out. In the next few minutes before the end of the show, we'll be looking at what is the next step. Honorable Namdaz, a quick intervention from you. The Senate set up a committee on security headed by Senator Yahya Habulai, the majority leader in the Senate. But beyond all of this conversation is the fact that we're looking for a solution. Has the National Assembly agreed on a collective way to go, not a way that the House is working in silo and the Senate is working in silo? Is there any unified manner in which we can tackle these menace from the National Assembly perspective?
Thank you so much. First, let me say that the National Assembly leadership, both from the House of Representatives and that of the Senate, are on the same page. Because you can see my speaker there, even when immediately he was elected, that was the key thing. He invited the service chiefs to know their issues, their problems. He traveled to Maiduguri, he went to Katsina. He has a good grasp of the issues, and now with we on board, we have had so many of the challenges and we are working together. But there are 2 or 3 fundamental solutions to it. Number one, we must not rely only on kinetic way of solving this problem. There are no kinetic methods. First, we, even as legislators and at the executive branch, both from the local government, states, and at the federal level, must ensure that we provide the basic infrastructure, provide employment to the teeming unemployed youths. No matter the kind of equipments we have to fight people, no matter how many guns they have, the army or the armed forces will have to fight insurgents. So long as our people are not fully, or our youths are not gainfully employed or are not actively involved in economic activities, that will always be a challenge on the type of security. So we need to do that. In fact, as I tell you, local governments are no longer, almost not existing. And that level, at that level, they are more closer to the masses. They will have helped. In 8th Assembly, the National Assembly, during the constitutional review exercise, we decided to say, okay, let's give financial autonomy to the local government so that they can stand, they can provide little things, roads, some things in the communities. But we couldn't muster the two-thirds from the state houses of assembly. It collapsed. And therefore, I think that we may still go back to the drawing board if this time around that the houses of assembly will help us. Let us have a functional local government system working. Let us have state governments that can provide infrastructure, provide jobs for the youth. That will really help. And again, I want to also assure people that
Honorable
apart
Namdaz,
from also relying on the
apologies, there are
we
criticism.
need to see how we.
If I may put this question in quickly, there are criticisms that online that they are thought, some Nigerians say they are thought that immediately when you went into the debate over the issue of security, to empower some of the regions, when you gave a thumbs up to the Amotekun experiment and the Southeast initiative, that there will be a quick reaction from the National Assembly to empower some of these regions or some of these states in these initiatives.
No, I think that was a very clear statement. The Speaker, Femi Bajabiel, made a statement that we need to have a legal framework of how this thing could be worked out. Even the guest from London has also alluded to the same issue, because the National Assembly cannot legislate on state issues, and therefore, and Amotekun is not something that is at the federal level. Therefore, the Speaker said that he has directed the majority leader and the minority leader so that they should come out with amendments, either for constitutional amendment, so that we can have a legal framework that this thing can exist, and so that it can cohabit and then things will work efficiently. I think that has actually been addressed by the leadership, and that we are working towards that.
Let me bring Alhaji Tanko into the conversation. Just a moment. Alhaji Tanko, do you see a way forward in the manner in which the National Assembly, the police, and the service chiefs are handling the matter, and of course, the federal government led by President Muhammadu Buhari? Do you see us moving forward, a progression of forwardness here?
Okay, it's not a matter, we don't have a choice, we must move forward. That is the basic fact. The fact that the National Assembly have been able to call the service chief and then start to question to know exactly what their problems are for not performing or be able to take care of some of these particular challenges is a very good direction. Now, it's now issue of implementation, which has to do with what they found out and what is existing. And if that the recommendation that will be passed to the executive, where now Mr. President and his own executive need to take decisive position as quickly as possible, I'm totally in support, not to impede on what the service chief has achieved over the years. We congratulate them, they've done a wonderful job. But as a matter of check and balances and inspiring the new ones to take over, it's only but good for Mr. President to do the needful. This service chief has served their times. They can also leave so that another new crop of leaders can come in. Remember, there have been counter-accusations. These are accusations and allegations, of course, of corruption within the same system, and that has not allowed those boys to perform the duties that they want to expect. In fact, sometimes you are even seeing mutiny, as the case may be. So in this case now it's now left for Mr. President to do the needful, ensure. Then after they have already done the needful, now do we implement what is there? And I agree totally that we need to find a solution to what we do with our teeming unemployed youth. There has been a popular saying or a continuous saying in Nigeria, there is hunger in the land. And you know what that can bring. We have a large population, unemployed and all. We must make sure that those ones are employed.
Yeah, let's get to Dr. Omole, and it will lead us to the end of the program. Dr. Omole, in your final intervention tonight, give us the last two of the 5 pillars of community policing. A lot of people are asking online that you should give Nigerians that advice. I mean, give, the pillars that you were mentioning earlier, and give us your final thought on the way to go.
Okay, thank you. The fourth pillar is community policing allows the police to build community relations. I mean, the best practice all over the world is that for a good police community relationship to exist, individuals need to have had an interface with the police 5 times in a non-criminal related matter, which means, for example, you're a student, you've seen police in your assembly, once a month to address the students. You're an accident victim, you see the police helping you to come out, to help rescue the injured. So, police do all these non-criminal related matters. And when you've done that a few times, by the time you now have criminal activity, you've trusted, the trust relationship is already built. The problem in Nigeria at the moment is that almost 100% of contact of Nigerians with police is criminal in nature.
The last one, Dr. Omole, because we're out of time now. The last one, and maybe in 20 seconds, your final word.
Well, actually, last one is to improve support for the police. Community policing will improve support for the police because human beings are still the best source of intelligence for police. In terms of advice to the IGP, there are certain things the IGP can do today that are within his powers. There are certain things he cannot do because he needs resources to do them. My advice is he should do what are within the bandwidth of his powers right now, and then demonstrate to Nigerians that if you give him more resources, he can take the job home.
Dr. Charles Omole, thank you so much for your thought tonight. He's a lawyer and expert in policing and security. Before we go, let me take some of your tweets. You've been tweeting from home and let us know your feedback on what you're watching tonight. Quickly, one from Ejimbe Bernard. He says, Nigeria police are overwhelmed in tackling insecurity challenges in Nigeria. They lack manpower, equipment, and poorly remunerated. They should collaborate with Neighborhood Watch or Vigilante Group for effective policing. I'll take the last one from Yusuf Dingyadi. He said, I see nothing wrong in this agitation of asking Mr. President to urgently change the stagnant service chiefs in order to inject youthful, dedicated officers with ideas to face our nation challenge on insecurity. Those are some of your views tonight on the program. I must sincerely thank my panelists tonight on the program. Alhaji Yunus Atanko, National Chairman of the NCP and the presidential candidate in 2019. Honorable Abdurazak Namdaz, the Honorable Chairman of the House Committee on the Army, and Dr. Charles Omale from London. Thank you so much tonight for weighing in on this issue. I'm sure Kimale. Bye-bye.